Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to share with you all the different kids activities that you can do that are £10 or less. So as you know, summer holidays are here, and although for me I've got a couple more days to go, most people are on summer holidays and it's time to get thinking about what it is that we can do with our children. The biggest problem that a lot of people are facing now is that we don't have the capacity, the finances to be able to do elaborate activities anymore due to the cost of living crisis. That has raised petrol prices, it's raised food prices, and it's made a huge impact on how we're going to look at some holidays and what we do. I've come up with a list of free activities that cost £10 or less, or activities that you can do at home. So hopefully this selection will help you gain a few ideas on different things that you could do to mix up the summer holidays without breaking the bank. Within the activities I have included some that just cost for parking or petrol, so that is the cost that's involved where the activity is free. So there's a combination of different activities here. One thing to remember is before you get started is to plan ahead. Try and plan in a couple of activities, but also organise your food situation as well. Get into the habit of taking food with you, planning your lunches and knowing when you're going to eat so you don't get stuck needing water or any food when you're out. This will help reduce the costs. And try and spread out your activities. You don't have to be busy doing something every single day. You could do an activity every other day, so they have plenty of free time at home as well to enjoy, so that you're mixing it up and you're not putting too much pressure on yourself either. And if you are wanting a stay at home day that is just chilled, a walk around the block is just as much fun and just as much fresh air as you need to kind of keep you mentally ticking over. So those days are okay too. Don't put pressure on yourself to be doing something all of the time. Okay, first of all, here are my favourite free activities to do with my son. So straightforward one is going to the park. That's just as exciting as you might imagine for a child. They absolutely love it, and you could mix up going to different parks so that you've got different activities, different apparatus that they can use. So that will make it more interesting. Lots of towns and cities have splash parks as well, so they have water that is free flowing, that is a free kind of splash activity for your children to enjoy without costing a penny. If you're trying to get your children to be active on a Sunday morning in your local area, I should imagine there's probably a junior parkrun. I highly recommend kind of getting your children signed up to this. You don't have to necessarily run it yourself, but you can get your children running, and it's 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning at one of your local parks. If you look on the website, you'll be able to find one close to you by using their search. And it's free to sign up, it's free to turn up and join, it's free to run, and adults, if you want to run, you can do it with them. Otherwise you can let them go round themselves because it's always marshalled, and there'll be lots of volunteers that will do that and check that the course is safe. So that is a free activity you can do every Sunday to get your children active. It's for ages 4 to 14. One of me and my son's favourite things to do is to go walking. Quite often we'll do photography walks or country walks. We'll go to Coastal Path or Dartmoor, and we'll take cameras with us to take pictures, and that's kind of the thing that we're trying to do. To make that more accessible for children, you could get like a disposable camera, or you could let them use your phone depending on their age, and sometimes children have their own devices that have cameras. So that's an opportunity for them to explore nature and wildlife by trying to take photographs of it. Next up is the museum. Quite often the museum have lots of different exhibits that are standard, but they also have new exhibits every couple of months that you can go and have a look at. So my local one has a current Lego exhibit, so we will go and look at that at some point, and it's free to have a look at and it's free to go round. There's usually only a small section of the museum that is paid for, but that's very rare that they do that now. Quite often it's all free. So there's always lots to explore at a museum, and quite often they do some activities in the summer holidays as well, so it's definitely worth having a look into that too. And my next free activity is to do a bug hunt. You could go anywhere that's got a grassed area or woodland and see if you can hunt for different bugs. You could always write yourself a list of different insects or plants that you could go looking for and see if your children could find them. Activities that cost £10 or less now. So first of all, you could sign your children up to a weekly sports session. So For example, you could do gymnastics, you could do badminton, golf lessons. There's lots of different activities that your child could do on a weekly basis, and that would be a relatively cheap activity, but it still gets them active and doing something. So find something that interests them and see if they enjoy doing that on a regular basis. So it usually costs £10 or less to do a lesson a week, so that's something that could get them active and keep them motivated in the summer. Next up is swimming. Swimming is a relatively low cost activity. It's usually between £5 and £8 per person, depending on the age, etc. But it's a relatively cheap activity that you could do as a family. Next up is mini movies at the cinema. So most cinemas offer a weekend special price for a slightly older film that's maybe 6 months after its release date, and they'll call it a mini movie, so it's only costing about £2 or £3 per person to go and watch it. It's a cheaper way of seeing something at the cinema, so you still get the cinema experience, and obviously you can take your own food and you can still see a relatively new film at a low cost. Next up is going to a country park. So usually they're free to go into, quite often it's just a cost for parking or for travel if you don't have a car. So there's lots of country parks dotted around the UK that you can go and access. Maybe one that's nearby, so you don't have to go too far. And they'll have nature walks, they'll have different animals and different wildlife. There's lots of things to look at when you go there. Next is 10-pin bowling. Quite often 10-pin bowling companies have special offers in the holidays. So quite often we've gone in half terms or summer holidays because they'll do a special deal where it's only about £5 for one game and some food. So that's often a really good cheap activity. Next up is open gardens. So if you haven't heard of this, there's a national garden scheme that has different large houses across the UK that open up their gardens on certain dates throughout summer, and it usually costs between about £4 and £8 per adult, and children are absolutely free, and you can go and have a look at somebody's really nice garden where they've got really nice flowers, etc., that are really well kept. So if you like looking at things like that and seeing a beautiful kind of scenic area, then that's a really good one to do, and quite often they'll have some refreshments available as well if that's something that you're interested in. But it just gives you a different experience in somewhere else. Okay, now on to activities that you can do for free at home or cost very little if you don't already have the resources in your home. So first up is drawing. You could get an object or a plant, etc., and do some observational drawing or sketching of that item. They could sketch their favourite toy, and you can have it in front of them and they're just sketching. They're just spending time slowing down and really looking at the details and trying to add to their picture. Try and give them a kind of long period of time so they know that they have to sit down for a certain period, like 20 minutes, so they know they really have to work on one picture for a really long time. And similarly, painting, you could get painting equipment out and let them paint any picture that they like, or you could get them to do it of an object or a toy of the garden, or using a picture from the internet and trying to copy. So you can give them different muses, different items that can inspire them for their painting. And if you don't have the paints in stock, most craft stores, etc., will have small kits with a small selection of different paints for £5 to £10. Next up is card making. So this could be something that you do over the summer holidays, getting ready for different birthdays or for Christmas. There may be a small cost involved here, so you may want to get some plain card that you could fold, but they could decorate or paint or do drawings on them to make them special. And if you have a garden, another activity that you could do is getting out and doing some gardening. Most kids are quite happy to help out in the garden and do weeding or different chores or do planting. So there's always something that the children can get involved in to help maintain the garden. Next up for an activity at home is a movie night. So you could either pay for one on a subscription service, or if you've got a subscription service already, watching a new film that's just been released and maybe just the cost of maybe buying a bag of popcorn from your local shop. That's a relatively cheap activity you could do, but you can make it more exciting by having it all cosy with blankets, or you could have it so that you have everything like a picnic set up on the floor so that you're all watching it together on cushions. Next up is to play board games, so you can get your favourite games out and have a games night where you play different games together as a family, and that could be something that you do weekly to kind of make a fun new habit. So me and my son often do it on a Monday night to make Mondays more enjoyable and fun and exciting to look forward to. So you can set yourself a regular night that you have board games out to play. Next up is den building. Children love doing den building. They'll spend hours making and playing in the den. So just make sure that you have anything that you don't want to be used tucked away, and let them have free reign of the sofas, the cushions, the tables and the chairs, etc. and blankets to put everywhere and to make a really exciting den. You could have some string lights that maybe you already have. You could decorate it so that it looks really nice for them to enjoy. They can cozy up and read books in there. Next up is to do Lego challenges. If you've got a boy that is obsessed with Lego like I do, then you could give them a challenge. It could be that I want you to create a boat, or I want a racing car, or I want you to make a house. So you can give them specific challenges and they've got to try and make their interpretation of the challenge, and you can kind of see what they come up with. That would be quite fun to do. You can always get the challenges from the children as well, so that they are motivated to get involved. Next up, which has got a small amount of cost if you don't already have the ingredients, is to do some baking. So you could make cakes or biscuits, etc. together with your children so that they have fun making as well as eating. My last activity is for them to do fancy dress. Children love dressing up. They might want to borrow some of your clothing, or they might have their own fancy dress costumes already, or clothes that they could make into a costume. You could give them a challenge and get them to try and do a certain theme and see what they come up with. That would be a great bit of fun for them to enjoy. Hopefully you've enjoyed all these activities to do over the summer, and most of them cost £10 or less. So they're relatively easy activities. That's going to be most of my summer, is going to be doing all of those things. So hopefully you enjoy that too. Don't forget to share below if you've got any other ideas of cheap or free activities that you could do over the summer. And I shall see you soon. Take care. Bye.